ready, Will will give me the signal in 1 second.
Okay, well, I would like to call to order the Monday, April 6th meeting of the City of Monona Finance and Personnel Committee. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Wood.
Here.
Alder Kitzlar.
Here.
Mayor O'Connor.
Here. Let's see, we did have the minutes for this meeting, I think. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the March 16th meeting?
Move to approve. Second.
Any corrections or additions?
No.
Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. I don't think there are any appearances. There's no unfinished business. Under new business, item 6A, consideration of resolution 20-4-2402, designation of emergency responder employees under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. Is there a motion to approve this?
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, Brian?
Yes.
Are you going to address this?
Thank you. So I put together a memo that's in your packet that kind of lays out the situation. So basically, a federal law that what's shortened to FFCRA, Families First Coronavirus Response Act, was adopted a few weeks ago. It set about a separate emergency leave program that's separate above and beyond the regular FMLA for COVID-19 related illnesses. In that act, it sets about a process by which local governments can exempt certain classes of employees who are function in the roles of emergency responders, and that can be defined a number of different ways. This act became effective on April 1st, and so before the act became effective, in consultation with the mayor, the city attorney, and other staff member, the police chief, fire chief, we made the decision to exempt a number of employees that are listed in the memo who function in the roles of emergency responders from the coverage under FFCRA. And the reason for that was a couplefold. One, FFCRA sets about that you can have up to 10 to 12 weeks of additional paid leave time if you meet a number of different criteria, including you become infected with the illness or you don't have the ability to have child care provided because of closures of schools or daycares. Which is all well and good, except it creates a number of challenges when we're trying to schedule the emergency responders to respond to this crisis over the next months. So we made the decision to exempt these employees that would give our police chiefs and our fire chief the ability to maintain the staffing levels that we need during this response time. We also included Public Works Department because they do have an emergency response capability during this time, and then the city administrator position given the emergency manager hat that I also wear. So we had the mayor do an emergency proclamation last week to exempt those employees. We're now bringing this resolution forward to the city council this evening for them to ratify this decision to exempt these employees. And then separately, we have another policy that we've drafted to provide these exempted employees with 2 weeks of paid sick leave if they would contract the virus during kind of the course of the next couple of months. We would provide them paid leave that they could use for this because they are being exempted from the 10 to 12 weeks. And then in addition, these employees would be eligible to utilize the existing FMLA or our newly adopted paid care leave policy if need be as well, plus their existing paid time off leave balances. So with that, I'll pause for a moment, take any questions that you might have on this resolution that we'd like to bring to council this evening.
Questions? Comments?
Yeah, I did. I had emailed Brian earlier, I think this morning, and he got back to me later. And just to clarify what this resolution, what the order meant, and so it clarified for me that unless the employee, one of these emergency responders, gets COVID, is taking care of somebody with COVID, is awaiting a test result, then they would not be able to take the time off, like to care for family members, care for their children, things like that. So Is that pretty much the gist of it, Brian?
Brian, did you want to confirm that, or you're on mute, I think.
Sorry, was there I didn't hear your question.
Oh, I just wanted you to confirm that the way I described it was correct, which was basically these emergency responders would not be able to take the leave under the Federal Act unless they tested positive, showed symptoms and were awaiting a test, or had been told to quarantine by a health professional due to exposure.
Yes, that is correct. They would not be eligible for the coverage under the new FFCRA. However, if one of those three situations that you described occurred for the exempted emergency responder employees, they would qualify for 2 weeks of paid leave under our new interim policy that we have included in the packet materials this evening, 2 weeks of paid leave for those three situations that you outlined.
Right. Okay.
Andrew, any questions?
Questions from there?
I guess if there's nothing else, then all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, item 6B, discussion and consideration of staffing and city operations contingency plans for COVID-19. As I think you probably know or probably recall, we had agreed to pay employee salaries through, I think it was through today, wasn't it, Brian?
Yeah.
So with the idea that we would then be discussing it further next time we met. So we've put together a policy for the next few weeks, and I think we're just going to have to continue to do this on a piecemeal basis as long as this goes forward, depending on what our financial situation is and whatever. So Brian, if you'd like to explain a little more.
Yeah, happy to. So there's a couple things we wanted to provide you with an update on tonight. We'll provide the same information to the full council after 7 p.m. The first is we'll talk about the pay plan first, and then I'll turn things over to Police Chief Ostrenga to talk a little bit about the police department and their staffing and the hours of operation that they're going to look at potentially switching to. So we'll deal with that we'll deal with the pay plan first, and then we'll switch over to Wally for some updates he's going to provide you. The pay plan, which is included in your packet, basically is the same plan we had about a month ago. So we would pay all employees regardless of their classification level for about the next month until Tuesday, May 5th. The reason for that is we wanted to give ourselves at least a couple city council meetings in between in case we needed to make any tweaks because of changes in the situation. Obviously, every day is fluid with this, so we may need to reevaluate things going forward. We may need to continue to extend this plan going forward. But this at least provides some peace of mind for all of our employees, at least for the next month or so, on kind of their wage and benefits kind of going forward. And this plan makes it very clear that we're going to continue to provide their existing wage and benefits as if this situation was not occurring. So that's kind of the first thing to make clear. Second, this interim staffing plan lays out some of the same essential versus non-essential employee classifications that we talked about with the resolution in the last agenda item. Really, that's more of a moniker as it relates to our emergency response responsibilities. Those employees that are deemed essential are listed here. Those are the people that we need to be at their duty stations or at City Hall as much as possible to respond to kind of not only the emergency responsibilities, but also just keeping City Hall and city functions going. Other employees that are not listed in this document are considered non-essential just as it relates to the COVID-19 response. The employees that are non-essential and that have the ability to telecommute or work remotely have been doing so and will continue to do so. There's a small number of employees that aren't able to because they don't have the job responsibilities or the technical capability to do that type of remote work, so they will continue to remain at home to maintain emergency order number 12, and we will continue to pay them as if they were working here at City Hall. There's been a lot of questions about what does this mean for some of our seasonal work that the city typically does coming up this spring and in the summer as it relates to Park and Rec. That's a little bit larger conversation that we're going to need to have with the Park and Recs director over the next couple of weeks. We anticipate at least starting those conversations with the City Council at our next meeting on April 20th. But as of now, the plan is to continue forward at least through May 5th with payment of all those employees on a go-forward basis. I believe I've covered the highlights of the memo. I've asked Mark Hotaker to be on the call as well in case you had any kind of general finance questions for the city as it relates to our COVID-19 response. But with that, I'll take any questions you've got.
Andrew?
So I don't want this to be construed as any way other than supporting this proposal, because I do agree that we need to continue to pay employees. But have we done any sort of cost calculation of what the impact is with not having programs and who we're kind of paying and that type of thing? I mean, because we keep kind of insinuating that there's financial impact, and there is. So what is that?
Yeah, we're starting to do that analysis with the Parks Department now. Particularly those would be the programs that would be impacted. We're not at the point where we are ready to make a determination one way or the other to cancel programs, but some of the things that we're obviously taking a look at are the pool operations for the summer, some of the recreation programs that would be available during the summer, after-school program would be another one that we're taking a look at, and we hope to have some more information for the council coming at the next meeting on April 20th.
Gotcha. And then final quick follow-up is I had somebody from the library board ask me about they, I guess, have some just traditional work, I forget what, inventory and different things like that, that they could maintain distance and everything like that. Is there been a talk with the director about that, or have they brought it up to you, I guess?
Yes, and we've talked to all department directors. If there are situations in which you can have the employee safely be in your facility and do, whether it's long-term projects, inventory work, all those things, we're leaving it up to the director's discretion to do those things. If the employees feel like it's not safe because there would be too many employees or too much activity in a given space to meet the social guidelines, then they're not doing that. But the library director is aware of that and has had some staff members do that over the last couple weeks, in addition to library staff members assisting with the elections preparations over the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, did Wally, were you going to have Wally say something now, Brian?
Yes,
Or,
yeah, I think that makes sense.
or should we vote on this and then have him fill us in?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I don't believe we have a motion on the table.
Sorry, yeah, we don't have was there a motion on the table?
Just discussion.
Yeah. Didn't we have a motion?
I think Doug might have said something, but maybe, if not, I motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, now all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay. Ollie.
Okay, here I am. I'm not on the little laptop like the rest of you guys, so I kind of feel a little deficient. But so since the declaration of the state of emergency, officers have been asked to alter their patrol behavior drastically due to the coronavirus pandemic. I'm not going to run down the entire list. Maybe I could be more descriptive when we get to the full council, unless you guys want me to run down a lot of things that we're doing. I've already talked to the mayor a couple times about this. What I'm concerned about is so far we've only had one officer use, I think, 2 days for daycare. Other than that, no one has taken leave. They've all been working their full shifts. We did have 3 employees that we had to quarantine. One of them, 2 of them, well, actually, let me explain that. 2 of them had flights to go out of town. The rules that we had at the time were that if you left town, you had to, if you had no symptoms for 14 days, you had to monitor yourself with your temperature twice a day, and that would be fine. Then the third officer, this third person left town, and then after that happened, we had instructions that it sort of changed. Now, anytime anyone was on any flight, they're recommended that they do not come back until they're quarantined for 14 days. So those are the 3 people that have been out. One of them came back today, one of them's going back tomorrow, and the third one should be back in about 3 days. So no one's gotten sick. That's the good news. But what I'm concerned about is we have all of our personnel sort of lumped together, and it's as you know, it's a very small workspace when they are in the station together. So we're trying to minimize sort of minimize the damage that could occur if someone were to be sick and start infecting people. And to do that, and this has been the trend throughout the whole state of Wisconsin, and I don't know if it's nationwide, but for sure with the Wisconsin chiefs, is to change your shift schedule to reduce that risk to your personnel. So what I'm proposing to do, or what I plan on doing within a couple days here, is shifting officers from an 8-hour work shift to a 12-hour work shift. And what this does is it'll reduce the number of days that they're working and increase the number of days off. And it should reduce the amount of time that they're actually around each other in the station. And the second thing it does is it greatly reduces the amount of cleaning supplies we're using, because every time someone comes in to start a new shift, or the middle of their shift, or the end of their shift, they're disinfecting, they're using the Clorox wipes. Clorox wipes are probably the biggest asset that we're burning through a lot of. And depending on how long this situation goes on, at some point we're going to run out. I mean, we have other plans in place to fill it, but that's one of the major things too. So with the shelter at home order by the governor, we found that our calls for service are way down. The instructions I've given people, which kind of coincide with what else is going on in the state, has reduced self-initiated activity drastically. The jail is only taking extremely violent people, so many of the crimes we're involved with, property crimes, would not qualify to go to jail. The judges have stopped holding trials. Really, without the number of calls for service, we're just trying to reduce our people down to 2 officers minimum. And the plan that I have would have them working 3 days, and then they'll be off 9 days. And that will get us through a rotation through the entire department.
Does any member of the committee have questions for the chief about that?
Yeah. Doug?
Yeah, Wally, have you had any contacts with any local businesses that are not in compliance with the order, and how did that get resolved?
Okay, we had we had a couple. One for sure was the Hobby Lobby. Is that the one I'm thinking of? Down at the mall. We had contact with him one day, and the officer, when he went to talk to him, basically the employees there were terrified that they were all going to lose their jobs if they walked out. They made contact with their corporate office and had public health also get involved, and then the next day on Tuesday they had signs up that they were closed and not open for business anymore. So that was sort of the easy way to resolve it. We've had other calls where people are gathering, noise complaints in apartments and things like that, where just people are being not responsible at all. But it's not to the point where we can't just like kick down doors and force them to comply with the law. So we've taken other steps with that, where we'll contact landlords, we'll contact parents, things along those lines to try to resolve. Otherwise, we really have not had a lot of complaints involving businesses being open that should not be open.
Yeah, that's good.
And another thing is, Dane County Chiefs, I don't know if you saw it, posted a letter about a week or so ago that all the police chiefs in Dane County support this. We're not out patrolling the streets looking for people that aren't going to grocery stores or aren't in a position where they're supposed to be out. That we're not using that as probable cause to stop people randomly to write them tickets or place them under arrest. We're trying to, use common sense throughout this whole thing.
Okay, so anyone else have any other questions? Thank you, Wally.
Sure.
We appreciate everything all of you are doing. Let's see, the final thing then is acceptance of general fund accounts payable, checks dated March 13th to April 2nd. Documentation of invoices paid is available in the city clerk's office.
Sure. there's not a lot of stuff in here. You'll see a lot of refunds in here. This is going to start to happen, especially with the senior center and the rec department. We had one big refund of the Patrick Day dinner, so we'll see a bunch of these in the coming future. That's page 17. There's not a lot, it's just a lot of general service. Page 21, we have still final sale of the rock salt for the winter. That's all paid through now. I don't have a lot more. There's it. Page 30. North Shore environmental construction. It's the PFAB removal. It was done. That's one portion of it.
Is that, what was exactly that, Mark? Was that the stuff that was on the fire trucks?
Yeah, that was disposal of the material in the 2 fire trucks, and then there's a separate charge from a different company for the replacement foam that does not contain the PFAS chemicals.
Thank you.
Kind of right above that on page 30 in NESCO. You'll see a bunch, there's a lot of cleaning supplies throughout this whole thing. You'll see a lot of different vendors of just cleaning supplies is one of the biggest things in this pay period.
And I assume we're keeping track of all that in case we can get reimbursed
We've been putting down,
for that?
tracking that.
Okay.
Otherwise, that's kind of the main thing. Page 42, Strand still working on stuff for us.
Questions, anybody?
Yeah.
Just a comment. I think I've bought more stuff on Amazon than you guys have bought in the last month. So.
You might not get it for another month, but
Right.
So anything else?
No, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to accept the bills?
Motion to accept the bills.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm missing my hammer, but yeah, I guess. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
and so for the council meeting, just go to the calendar invite for the council meeting and click on that meeting link and log in that way. I'll be setting that up in just 1 second, and we'll get ready to go once we've got all the council members in that meeting.
Okay, so we should wait a little while to.